I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, November the 20th, brought to you in part by Macrocin by Bimeda. Proven efficacy at an affordable upfront price with no BS. End of story with Macrocin. For more information, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards, huge yearling special here today, November the 20th at Joplin Regional Stockyards. They've got 11,000 head expected, be at least 125 square loads of yearling feeder cattle. They've got them when other people don't, guys. Where are you going to go to find anything like that? It's on DVAuction.com. Get on there and view. You can bid there, get your order in there to one of the order buyers. But a huge yearling special. They've been saving them up around JRS there for this big yearling special. Going to happen here today. Going to be starting early, guys. They'll be selling cattle before 6. Get rid of a lot of the little deals. And they'll be selling big strings of cattle, you know, before 8 o'clock in the morning, probably by 7. But don't miss that big yearling special at Joplin. Then coming right back the next day on Tuesday, and going to have a prime time yearling video special. That's going to be Tuesday the 21st here tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So be sure and check out the lots on that. That's on DVAuction too as well. And then be thinking about early next month, December the 7th, they've got a value added special there with strings and strings, long strings, and thousands of fancy calves that'll all be preconditioned, weaned, vaxxed, and have the whole program long time weaned and everything. So be interested in that. Joplin Regional Stockyards, they're not the biggest stockyard in the country for nothing. What kind of cattle on feed? So we had the cattle on feed report come out on Friday, and that's basically all we talked about last week because they were killing the board because they were getting ready for this big bearish cattle on feed report. And I always hate to toot my horn, not really, but I said I didn't think there was any way that we were going to have placements up there around 107, that they'd be closer to 100, but we're actually splitting hairs here. I mean, it's not that many cattle, you know, that we were 104, and actually we were 103.7. That was only 79,000 cattle more placed. More cattle placed in the whole month of October than last year. Okay, last year's placement was crazy light. This year's placement in October is the third lightest placement that we've ever had on the cattle on feed report, as it is since 1996, since the series started 28 years ago, the third smallest ever. And the board last week was just getting all ruffled up about it being maybe 107, and it ended up being 103.7. They're just looking for a reason to kill the board here, and there's no reason there. There's absolutely no reason there. I've been telling you guys, fundamentally, we're as bullish and strong as we've been any time. But why are they keep getting these cattle on feed report wrong? Well, I'll tell you what it was. The inventory for November the 1st come in Friday afternoon at 101.6% of a year ago. So 1.6% more than the same report a year ago. The average in the analyst guess was 101.9, so we fell on the friendly side of that. Your placements come out at 103.7% of a year ago, and what they were guessing was 107. So that's bullish. It's absolutely bullish. Your marketings come in just under what they had guessed. They came in at 97.5% of a year ago because our harvest has been so light, so we're just basically not marketing that many of them. And that was compared to what the average of the analyst guess was 98%. So it's a neutral, friendly, or neutral, bullish cattle on feed report. Talked to a lot of people since it come out, talked to a lot of people before, and of course everybody's getting so tired of having to deal with these CME cattle futures that just jack around and juke and jive and do all this stuff, and it's costing real people real money, real things, hurting them financially, and it's for no reason, and then it just jostles back and forth where it's going. And then every month we have to worry about these cattle on feed reports, and we don't know why they're missing them. Well, one good friend of mine that knows, that absolutely knows, very active in the business, he said he's convinced that it has a lot to do with the beef on dairy cattle that are on feed. And some of you people are not completely up to speed on what the beef on dairy cattle mean. Well, most of these big dairies, these milk factories that they have now, which there's no more of your little small hometown countryside dairy farm that milks 40 or 50 head or something like that. Now they're milking 5,000 or more, milk 24 hours a day. The owner of the dairy never touches a cow, drives around in $100,000 pickups, and they've all moved into the country where I love, eastern New Mexico and West Texas. They never turn off their sprinklers, and they abuse the fact that we don't have a lot of legislation, a lot of restrictions there, because most of them all come from California or places that had a lot of restrictions, and then they come to a place without restrictions, and then they abuse that fact because we're mostly conservative in West Texas and eastern New Mexico, and we kind of try to preserve things for our future and for our kids' future. They never turn the sprinklers off, guys. Never. They sell their land in California or wherever they're coming from by the square foot. They come out, they buy big tracts of land with big buffers around it. They grow all kinds of feed, and like I said, they never turn the sprinklers off, so they're abusing things. So now you've got these huge corporate dairy outfits, and they have found out that they really only need to breed for replacements on the top third of their milk producing cows. So they breed those to the best Holstein or dairy bulls that there are to try to get replacements so they can have fancy replacement heifers to keep dairying. Well, the other 2/3 of their herd, the bottom 2/3 of their herd, which are still pretty good milk producers, all they need them to do is have a calf. They don't need to have a Holstein calf that has little value. So, in the last 20, 30 years, it's started developing that if they pick out the very best elite beef bulls, and whether they've been mostly Angus, now I'm hearing there's more of them getting to be other breeds, other beef breeds, but they're coming in and breeding those. Of course, everything's AI'd anyway, so they just breed those to a dairy bull or sire, and then when that calf hits the ground, they've got outfits that are contracted to take those half beef, half dairy calves and start raising them. And the heck of it is, once they get those calves up weighing around 400 pounds, they'll bring damn near as much as the best straight beef calves that you can find anywhere, because they've got a lot of people that want to take those beef on dairies. They want to get them started, and they start them on feed right away, so they're calf feds. They're not going to be 1,700 pound Holstein finished cattle, but they're going to be calf feds. They're going to finish out actually at a lighter weight than what most of our beef cattle do now. Going to finish somewhere around 13. They're going to grade well because they're half dairy. They're fairly light muscled, so they're going to grade well. They're going to have a lot of intramuscular fat, which makes them grade well. They're going to be young, which your packers love. They're basically going to knock all the lights out on the grids because of just the way that they're produced. So we're starting to see more and more and more of that. And you think, well, we were seeing some of that before. Not that much. Our calf slaughter, which your calf slaughter is for veal or special fed veal or slaughter calves, those are nearly or 100% dairy calves. Okay, our calf slaughter is down big. I mean big. Our calf slaughter is down 20% this year. And it's not because there's fewer calves or anything like that. It's because a lot of those 20% of them 64,000 of them that didn't get slaughtered this year. Those and more are going into this beef on dairy program, and it's working for them. And so they're feeding them. And you think, well, how's that messing up our cattle on feed? Well, for one, like my friend was explaining to me, because they're part dairy cattle, they don't convert their feed as well, so they're not growing as quick as the regular beef cattle. So they're on feed twice as long as regular beef cattle. Regular beef cattle on feed 150 days. These are on feed for 300 days. And it's cutting the production for those feedlots that are having a lot of beef on dairy in there. They're not putting as many cattle through the system as typical, because they're a slower growing kind of an animal there, but they still work for those that want to feed them. But it's taken, I think, USDA or NAS a little while to come around. They just don't have as much touch with the industry, with industry participants as they used to have. Especially after COVID, we hardly saw USDA or any government agencies doing any traveling to get out and see what the hell is going on. And we think that they've really missed the boat here. And I believe that they probably have too. Another thing about these beef on dairy cattle, they will not perform in the cold as well as your beef cattle. So when we start seeing it get bitter cold, especially in the southern plains and in like Arizona, where they feed a lot of these cattle, if it gets, and it doesn't get bitter cold in Arizona that much, that's probably why they're feeding them there. But for those that are on feed in the southern plains, when it gets bitter cold, those beef on dairy cattle will drop. They're thin-skinned. They just do not handle it. They're not set up for cold weather. You see regular beef cattle, especially up in Nebraska, that are acclimated to it. It can be 30 below, and they'll be laying there chewing their cud with steam coming off of them, and they couldn't be any more comfortable than they are right then. But that's just one scenario from a good friend of mine that knows what's going on in the industry. That is that's what he thinks, and I think he's got a lot to it, and I think he's probably right to a certain degree of why they're missing this all the time. But it's costing people in the industry, because we're just seeming like, where's all this coming from, all the time? What happened to our fundamentals? And the people that are trading the futures, they're not watching fundamentals either. They're more worried about squiggly lines on a chart, or what's gonna trip your algorithms. Why? Because those are the things that affect the market the most, not your fundamentals. But let's look at the futures. We have to look at it for last week. December live cattle futures, Monday was up 75 cents, Tuesday up 92 cents, Wednesday up $1.92, Thursday down 3.02. No reason, just was. Friday back up another $1. December live cattle ended the week at 175.75, up $1.58. February ended the week at 176.80, up $2.15. So despite the big sell-off on Thursday, your live cattle futures were higher this past week. Now feeder cattle, January feeder cattle, Monday was up 187, Tuesday up 70, Wednesday up $1.90, Thursday down 3.40. For no reason, just that's just what happened. Down 3.40. Friday back up another $1. And then, so January feeder cattle ended the week at 228.50, actually up 208 for the week. March ended the week at 230.97. November went off the board at 228.64, which is exactly what your CME cash feeder cattle index was. So there's no payout there, no work for CME to do there. They can host big golf tournaments with all their profits, but you look at your December Chicago Board of Trade corn, which is also part of the CME group, ended the week at $4.67 a bushel. That was 3 cents higher for the week. January beans $13.40 1/4, up 6 3/4 cents for the week. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for December $6.18 to end the week. That was down 22 cents. Fat cattle trade. just short of 43,000 for the week up through Thursday. We saw live prices in your 5-area feeding region range from 175 to 181. Your weighted average on live steers 177.86. That was down 205, while your board was up $1.58. Your dress prices ranged in the 5-area from 278 to 282. Your weighted average on dress steers was 281.85, down $4.29. Ouch. We did have some trade Friday before 2. We'll see what the Friday after 2 or any weekend kind of stuff that happened on our next visit. But Iowa sold 2,700 on Friday, just short of 17,000 for the week, so about half what they normally do. Live sales 177 to 178. Dress sales 278 to 282. Nebraska 1,200 head, 18,400 for the week. 178 was the only live price on Friday in Nebraska. 278 to 280 dressed. Kansas only 300 on Friday, only 5,800 for the week. 177 was the price. Texas did not have any sales of fat cattle on Friday. Had 6,100 for the week, and you think, whoa, when they do all that? Mostly all late Thursday, and that was at 178 in Texas, but only 6,100 head for the week, and really doubt that there would be any more than that. But box beef cutout values were down for the week, down big on the choice. Your weighted average on all of last week's sales, choice 295.69, down $4.46 compared to the previous week's weighted average, and $2 more than that lower on Friday afternoon. Weighted average on select sales all of last week, 268.67, down 87 cents. Your Friday late sales were $2 higher than that weighted average. But your choice select spread on the weighted average, 27.02. That's based on 599 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings, which, like it's been here for the last several weeks, pretty decent kind of movement on the spot trade there. Your slaughter was 636,000 last week, 18,000 more than the previous week, 36,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Stay Tough Fencing offers a broad variety of net wire designs and profiles, as well as barbed wire to cover your containment or your exclusion needs. Stay strong, stay tight, stay tough. Was Stay Tough Fencing. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DVAuction ended the week at 225.65, down 380 for the week. Your CME cash feeder cattle index, like I said, it ended there at 228.64, which is what settled your November board. Don't forget, you guys, we've talked about Texas sales and why they don't have more pre-vac sales. We got a big pre-vac sale coming up at Cattleman's Livestock in Paris, Texas. That's in town, Paris, Texas. They've got their pre-vac 45 sale. Those cattle will be preconditioned, vaccinated, and weaned for 45 days. The sale is Tuesday, here tomorrow, the 21st of November. They've got big reputation strings of local cattle around there. There won't be near as many small deals, be more bigger bunches. They are not going to commingle the cattle. So if that bothers you, don't have to worry about that. But in fact, the overwhelming majority of the cattle are going to be weaned 90 to 120 days. And it is on DVAuction. And that is coming up here tomorrow, the 21st, from Cattleman's Livestock in Paris, Texas. Let's talk about your cash feeders last week. Feeders and calves sold $2 to $5 lower in your auctions last week. We did have some recovery late in the week, but they were down hard early in the week. But especially after your cattle on feed report come out and everybody kind of exhaled on Saturday at Fort Scott Livestock Market in Fort Scott, Kansas, they had 66 steers, weighed 646 and bring 274. That's an excellent price there, as good as we saw all week pretty much Fort Pierre Livestock Auction in Fort Pierre, South Dakota had 9,000 head. And market reporting missed an opportunity there. If you go in there and read the federal state market report for Fort Pierre Livestock Auction, they literally had a different price spread for every 50-pound weight group of calves. Not sure how that helps anybody. Not sure if they think people think that one 50-pound weight group of calves goes up $15 or $20, and the next 50-pound weight group goes down $10. It's just a waste when they do that. But they had a big sale in Fort Pierre. Calves sold pretty good for the most part. They sell a lot of cattle up there. Your National BeefWire stick-out sale of the day was Winter Livestock Auction in Winter, South Dakota. They had over 3,200 cattle there. And you look at their market report, automated from Cattle Market Central. You see they had 444 head of full-weight steer calves. They averaged 455 pounds with a weighted average price of $314.46. That was very impressive, but also down sharply from the previous week. 1,053 head of 5-weight steer calves averaged 548 with a weighted average price of $293.73, and that was about $3 lower. So that's basically what you can figure. Your bulk of supply, your 5-weight calves, sold about $3 lower than the previous week at Winter, but very impressively. About your heifers, 426 head of 4-weight heifers averaged 451 at $265.61. 5-weight heifers, 508 head of them weighed 557, weighted average price of $248.47. All those 4 and 5-weight heifers there were $12 to $14 lower than last week, so did not have as many heifer orders in there at Winter as they did a week ago. Talk about an individual quote. How about Santa Teresa Livestock Auction, Santa Teresa, New Mexico? These are all Mexican origin cattle that are already crossed the border that come through that auction there, just right by your crossing pins. But you can buy these cattle. You can buy them online. They'll send them to you, or you can send a truck after them. 52 steer calves weighed 538 and bring $243.50. That might entice you guys a little bit. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere, and I was there, and you know how I do these most impressive quotes. It's for where they were at, everything. But it happened at Nevada Livestock Marketing in Fallon, Nevada on Friday night. It was about 7 o'clock local, about 9 o'clock in the evening out in the center part of the country. But it was the Rock Creek Ranch steers. They had a big long consignment in there, but the biggest draft of steers they sold was 164 steer calves. They were nice. They were weaned and they were vaccinated and they were perfect and they were all black, and they averaged 567 pounds. They came from Golconda, Nevada, which is over by Winnemucca, but fairly local there. But 164 weighed 567. Bring 285 and a quarter, headed for California winter grass. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.